Hello.
Crystal, if you could just enable me to share screen.
Oh, yep. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh. I feel like we've been averaging like 10 people per call.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I think it's, you know, you're taping them, you have them as a resource. I just moved up because you've been thanking the local sponsors. I just have those as slide 1 and slide 2.
Perfect. Let's see. Oh, and nope, our website still. I think I'm just going to ask our website guy for access to this restart page because it's not getting updated. And I know he's crazy busy too, so.
Oh, of course.
Okay, we've got noon. Looks like we have a small group so far, but I think we'll just get started. We are recording, so this webinar will be available to you and any of your colleagues that you may want to send it to, or notify them that this is available. So welcome. My name is Crystal Serdick. I'm the Director of Development for the City of Jamestown. We put together this webinar series in hopes that we can help maybe bridge the gap between information that is being rapid fire released from the state and kind of coming at us really quickly. So we understand that it's been challenging to navigate. What does phase 1 mean? What does phase 2 mean? How are we all kind of getting through this COVID world that we're living in? So we hope that you find this helpful, and we've got lots of resources in this webinar that which you'll have access to all the information in the slides. Yeah, so I guess I'll start off quickly by thanking our partner organizations, the Chautauqua County IDA, the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce, and the Small Business Development Center have all been fantastic partners to work with. They've done a ton of kind of laying the groundwork and put forth a lot of effort. So, each of their contact information and their websites are available in this slideshow, and you can find all sorts of resources on their websites as well as ours. So, Seth, if you want, I'll chat quickly about the JRC programs that have just been rolled out as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you jump ahead. Just to let you all know that the Jamestown Renaissance Corporation has just released a small grant program. This particular group might be mostly interested in the e-commerce grants. So these grants are meant to help businesses kind of bring them up to speed on kind of fulfilling some of their needs or business needs that might be, whether it's some new technology or software, or even marketing or online services. There's also the urban dining and the parklet grant programs as well. So certainly check those out. But we wanted to mention that that's something that they just rolled out here. I think the end of last week it was. And it's a grant that the city, we are working on a business grant as well. So something that you can use as matching toward, they can leverage each other. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter, Seth Piccirillo. And
Hello, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Seth Piccirillo. I'm a development consultant that's working with the City of Jamestown. I'm very happy to be talking to everyone today. Just want to step back. The Department of Development has created a series, obviously by phase and by industry. We're on real estate today, but here we have a large, schedule of each individual sector, that if you know anyone in these sectors, to please share this information. Also, if you have any questions with the business safety plan or any of the topics that we're going to discuss today, please email the Department of Development. We can help you walk through the different paperwork and guidance that you're going to be navigating. In addition to the Jamestown specific resources that Crystal just talked about, New York State has just announced a loan fund in response to COVID. It's linked here to the presentation. The U.S. Small Business Administration, has the largest menu of financial opportunities for the pandemic, and we encourage everyone to take a look at that. And then also the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has, while not financial resources. Very good guidance that's updated on a regular basis about how industries are responding to safety protocols. Here. Also, Jamestown as a city is responding to the same type of safety guidelines that your businesses are. And the city is providing their Restart Jamestown plan at their website, which is linked here as well. So as of this week, we are in phase 2, which includes real estate and leasing. Your industry is specifically complicated because you're not only working in an office, you are working in people's homes. So the safety protocols are even more important, but I can speak from experience. I know that real estate was navigating this pandemic even prior to phase 2 opening. On a personal note, I both sold my house and bought a new one during the pandemic, which didn't seem like a good idea, but it only worked because the real estate industry was already making adjustments in how documents were signed and how they were virtually showing houses. So I'm confident that you as professionals will be able to adapt to this guidance. So our next steps are clear as far as being a phase 2 business. We need to complete our business safety plan, which we're going to go over. We need to affirm that we understand the new New York State safety compliance guidelines. We have to review that plan with our employees. We've got to make that plan accessible to customers in our places of business. Steps number 3 and number 4 are required, but they're also very important for making people feel more comfortable to be customers and employees. In order for people to, go to a store or start that real estate transaction, they're going to want to know that safety precautions are being taken. For employees of any sector to feel comfortable going back into the workplace as they're doing this week, they're going to also want to know that their employer is protecting them. All these safety protocols that we're going to talk about, the actual jurisdiction for compliance is local. So what we are thinking is complaints from either employees or customers are going to be what drive looking into, any level of government looking into safety plans. So if proactively you can discuss your safety protocols with your employers and make them readily available to your customers, you're going to be ahead of the game. It's already been a confusing year. The last couple of months have been extremely confusing. That's going to be ongoing. There's going to be a lot of gray area, and some of the guidance that we're going to talk about isn't necessarily all that clear cut either, but we know that there are no gray areas when it comes to affirming that you understand the new safety protocols and completing your business safety plan. Forward.ny.gov is the state's resource for all of the industry-specific guidance, the business safety plan, affirmation of understanding the guidelines. This website is where you should be visiting already and where you should use as a resource. The reopening of regions is also based on the metrics for each region. So that means how many new cases are reported, how many hospital beds are available. So this dashboard website, not something you have to check every day, but on a weekly basis, you can touch base with your regional dashboard to make sure that there's no changes and that there isn't going to be any changes to the phase reopening. So I would suggest looking at that once a week. If you're not certain about a business, where it falls as far as phases, there is a reopening lookup tool that is also available through the NY Forward website. The website includes the business safety plan template, the affirmation link that we're going to talk about, and all the guidance necessary. It's broken into summary guidance that applies to all businesses, detailed guidelines that are industry specific, like there are specific real estate guidelines that we'll go over, and the business safety template. That's a writable PDF, which is helpful to use in this process. As I said before, all of these precautions and these procedures are about building employee trust and customer confidence so that we can get our economy rolling again. I'm going to go over real quickly. I'm going to just turn off my screen here. So phase 1 opened on May 19th. That included construction, agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. retail that was limited to curbside or in-store pickup and drop-off, manufacturing, and wholesale trade. Phase 2, which opened on June 2nd, that's professional services, retail, administrative support, and of course, real estate, rental, and leasing. Phase 3 is not reopened yet. There is a estimate that there is usually 2 weeks between phases. That is not certain. Again, it depends on all of those regional metrics, but phase 3, which is not open, is restaurants and food services. And phase 4 is arts, entertainment, recreation, and education. Even if you have been operating before as an essential business, or you are getting ready to reopen this week or in the other phases, these guidelines apply to you. The business safety plan and the affirmation, something that needs to be done by every business, regardless of phase or if they were deemed essential in the first place. Every industry is different. Every business is different. Safety protocols are often specific to what you're doing at your business. You can build your safety protocols to meet what you're doing, but you must meet the state guidance that we're going to discuss today. When you go to the website and you click on phase 2, and then you click onto real estate, you are going to see mandatory and recommended best practices for each industry. We're going to go over these point by point because that's what you are affirming your understanding of, and that's what you're building your business safety plan on. So usually I don't like to just read text, but I think it's very important that we fully understand and review what's expected of us as business people. I'm going to go out of order because this is what's most applicable to real estate. So residential in-person property showings and related activity. Here's what's mandatory. Showings are only allowed in unoccupied or vacant properties. Current owner or lessees are not inside the property. So that's going to be a scheduling challenge. All individuals visiting the property will be required to wear face coverings at all times. Replace or clean and disinfect gloves at every showing. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces like handrails, doorknobs, etc. before and after every showing. Stagger showings in order to avoid congregation of peoples outside and inside the properties. Open houses are only allowed with one party inside the property at each time. So traditional open houses, even though real estate is reopened, are not allowed at this time. Here are recommendations. Gloves and shoe coverings are recommended in addition to face coverings. Provide face coverings and gloves to prospective tenants and or buyers if necessary. Sellers and lessees are advised to open all necessary doors and cabinets, as well as turn on all light switches to ensure minimal touching of surfaces by outside parties. Advise prospective tenants and buyers to only touch essential surfaces like handrails going up and down the stairs when necessary during their time in the property. Limit showing of common building areas in person, like gyms, roof decks, and pools. Encourage only one party, like the building inspector, the appraiser, the tenant or buyer, photographer, or stager, to be allowed inside the property at a time. If more than one party is inside the property at the same time, 6 feet of distance must be maintained at all times between individuals, and face coverings must be worn. Prospective tenant and buyers are encouraged to not bring young children to property showings when possible, or leave attended children outside. Limit salespeople, brokers from driving in the same car with prospective tenants and buyers. This cannot be avoided. Face coverings must be worn by everyone in the vehicle. Frequently touched areas of the vehicle should be cleaned and disinfected. Conduct remote walkthroughs rather than in-person walkthroughs, recordings, or live video streams. So that's what's specific to real estate. Now we're going to go through the other mandatory parts of this that are more designed for office space, but they're still relevant for your industry. And this is what's in the specific real estate document. In phase 2, limit the total number of occupants at any given time to no more than 50% of the maximum occupancy for a particular area, as set by the certificate of occupancy. A distance of at least 6 feet must be maintained amongst all individuals at all times, unless safety of the core activity requires a shorter distance. You're going to see 6 feet is really the measurement that's going to run through all of this guidance. Anytime workers or visitors must come within 6 feet of another person, acceptable face coverings must be worn, ensuring the mouth and the nose are covered. Individuals must be prepared to don a face covering if another person unexpectedly comes within 6 feet. Prohibit the use of tightly confined spaces like elevators and vehicles by more than one individual at a time unless all individuals are wearing face coverings. If occupied by more than one person, keep occupancy under 50% of maximum capacity. Post social distancing markers using tape or signs that denote 6 feet or spacing in commonly used in other applicable areas like clock-in stations, health screening stations, and restrooms. Limit in-person gatherings as much as possible and use tele or video conferencing whenever possible. Essential in-person gatherings like meetings should be held in open, well-ventilated spaces with appropriate social distancing among participants. Shared workstations like hot desks must be cleaned and disinfected between users. Reduce interpersonal contact and congregation through various methods like adjusting workplace hours, limiting in-person presence to necessary staff, shifting design of your office, reducing on-site workforce, staggering arrival and departure times to reduce congestion in lobbies and elevators. Non-essential common areas like pools, gyms, and game rooms must remain closed in phase 2. Here are recommended best practices for physical distancing. Modify or reconfigure the number of workstations and employee seating areas and desks for their workers so that workers are at least 6 feet apart in all directions and are not sharing workstations without cleaning and disinfection between use. Implement strict clean desk policies so that non-essential items are stored in cabinets or drawers rather than on desks. Limit use of shared workstations like hot desks when feasible. Leverage technology such as room sensors and real-time dashboards to quantify and display utilization of spaces throughout the office. Mark 6 feet distance circles around workstations and other common stationary work desks. Reduce bidirectional foot traffic by posting signs with arrows in narrow aisles, hallways, or spaces. Limit on-site interaction, like designate an egress for individuals leaving their shifts and a separate ingress for individuals starting shifts, and movements, like workers should remain near workstations as often as possible. Add desks to spaces previously used for group gatherings, like meeting spaces, conference rooms. Close non-essential amenities and communal areas which promote gathering or high touch. Stagger work schedules to observe social distancing for any gathering. Consider limiting all non-essential travel. This is protective equipment, which is mandatory. Provide workers with an acceptable face covering at no cost to the employees or contractors, and have an adequate supply of coverings in case of a need for replacement. Acceptable face coverings include, but are not limited to, cloth, which could be homemade, sewn, quick cut, or bandana, surgical masks, and face shields. Clean, replace, and prohibit sharing of face coverings. Consult the CDC guidance for additional information on cloth face coverings and other types of PPE, as well as instructions on use and cleaning. Train workers on how to don, doff, and clean as applicable, and discard PPE. And the training should be extended to contractors if the building managers or owners supply contractors with the PPE. Must advise workers and visitors to wear face coverings in common areas like elevators, lobbies, or when traveling in the office. Limit the sharing of objects such as tools, laptops, notebooks, telephones, touchscreens, and writing utensils, as well as the touching of shared surfaces, or require workers to wear gloves when in contact with shared objects or frequently touch surfaces, or require workers to perform hand hygiene before and after contact. Some best practices on protective equipment: maintain adequate supply of face coverings, masks, and other required PPE should a worker need a replacement or should a visitor need one. Cleaning and hygiene, mandatory. Adhere to hygiene, cleaning, and disinfection requirements from the CDC, the Department of Health, and maintain cleaning logs on site that document date, time, and scope of cleaning. Provide and maintain hand hygiene stations in the office, including hand washing with soap, running warm water, and disposable paper towels. lined garbage can, as well as an alcohol-based hand sanitizer containing 60% or more alcohol for areas where hand washing is not feasible. Provide and encourage participants to use cleaning and disinfection supplies before and after use of shared and frequently touched surfaces, followed by hand hygiene. Ensure that equipment is regularly cleaned and disinfected using registered disinfectants, including at least as often as employees and contractors change workstations. Cleaning and disinfecting the office station, shared services, and other areas, as well as equipment, should be performed with DEC products identified by the Environmental Protection Agency as effective against COVID-19. Regularly clean and disinfect the site, and more frequently clean and disinfect high-risk areas used by many individuals and for frequently touched surfaces. Rigorous cleaning and disinfection must occur for at least every shift, daily, or more frequently as needed. Regularly clean and disinfect the location or facility and conduct more frequent cleaning and disinfection for high-risk areas used by many individuals like restrooms and for frequently touched surfaces. Provide cleaning and disinfection of exposed areas in the event that an individual is confirmed to have COVID-19, with such cleaning and disinfection to include, at a minimum, all heavy transit areas and high-touch surfaces like elevators, lobbies, building entrances, badge scanners, restroom handrails, and door handles. Prohibit shared food and beverages like buffet meals or pizza at lunch, unfortunately. Some recommended best practices on cleaning and hygiene. Ensure real estate salespeople provide hand sanitizer to potential customers before and after visiting the property. Install touch-free hand sanitizer dispensers in high-touch areas, including entrances and exits. Communication. Here's what's mandatory. Affirm you have reviewed and understood the state-issued industry guidelines, and then you will implement them. And that's what today's conversation is all about. Post signage inside and outside of the office location to remind personnel and customers to adhere to proper hygiene, social distancing rules, appropriate use of PPE, and cleaning and disinfecting protocols. Train all personnel on new protocols and frequently communicate safety guidelines. Establish a communication plan for employees and visitors with a consistent means to provide updated information. Just as an example that we're hearing from people, that could be a text push, just basically a text tree, emails, anything that can be done using technology. Provide building managers and owners a list of essential visitors expected to enter the building. Maintain a log of every person, including workers and visitors, who may have close contact with other individuals at the work site or area. If a worker or visitor was in close contact with others at the office location and tests positive for COVID-19, the employer must immediately notify state and local health departments and cooperate with contact tracing efforts, including notification of potential contacts, such as workers, visitors, and/or customers, if known, who had close contact with the individual while maintaining confidentiality required by state and federal laws and regulations. Conspicuously post safety plans on site. Best practice recommendations for communication. Develop web pages, text and email groups, and social media campaigns to provide information for workers, customers, and visitors that include instructions, training, signage, and information. Work with building management to help facilitate any building-wide communications. Post signage inside and outside the building to remind individuals to adhere to proper hygiene, social distancing rules, appropriate use of PPE, and cleaning and disinfecting protocols. Screening. Here's what's mandatory. Employees who are sick should stay home or return to home if they are ill at work. Implement mandatory health screening assessments like questionnaires, temperature checks for employees, contractors, and other visitors asking about the following. 1, COVID-19 symptoms in the past 14 days. 2, positive COVID-19 tests in the past 14 days. And/or 3, close contact with a confirmed or suspected COVID-19 case in the past 14 days. Responses must be reviewed and documented daily. If a person has a COVID-19 symptom and it either tests positive or did not receive a test, the individual may only return after completing at least a 14-day self-quarantine. If a person does not have COVID-19 symptoms but tests positive for COVID-19, the individual may only return after completing at least 14 days of self-quarantine. If a person has had close contact with a person with COVID-19 for a prolonged period of time and is symptomatic, the individual must follow the above protocol for a positive case. If a person has had close contact with any person with COVID-19 for a prolonged period of time and is not symptomatic, the individual again must complete a 14-day self-quarantine. Coordinate with building managers to facilitate screening when possible. Tenants are responsible for screening their own employees and visitors unless responsible parties and building management have agreed to an alternate agreement to ensure screening is in effect. On-site screeners should be trained by the employer identifying individuals familiar with CDC, DOH, and OSHA protocols and wear appropriate PPE, including at a minimum a face covering. Identify a point of contact as a party for workers and visitors to inform if they are later experience COVID-19 related symptoms, as noted in a questionnaire. Have a plan for cleaning, disinfection, and contact tracing in the event of a positive case. Best practices for screening: prevent workers or visitors from intermingling in close contact with each other prior to completion of the screening. Daily temperature checks may be conducted per Employment Opportunity Commission or DOH guidelines. Maintain a log of every person, including workers and visitors, who may have close contact with other individuals at the work site or area, such as all contacts may be identified, traced, and notified in the event of a worker is diagnosed with COVID-19. For property showings, require the buyer, the seller, the lessor, or the lessee to complete screening questionnaire before entering the property. Require everyone to disclose if symptomatic and/or tested positive for COVID-19 within 48 hours of the last visit. Screen individuals at or near the building entrance, if space allows, to minimize the impact of a positive case. Coordinate with building managers to identify individuals who have completed remote screening. Use screening tools at building entrances in coordination with building management when possible to identify potentially symptomatic visitors and direct them to secondary screening area to complete the follow-up screening. So all of that information that I just read makes up the interim guidance for real estate services that is on the forward.ny website. So it's all in this document. And at the end of this document, there is a link for an affirmation. This is mandatory. So after you read everything, you click on this link. It brings you to a simple form where you identify your industry, your business name, your contact information, and that as the owner, you understand these guidelines and you affirm that understanding. Then you hit submit. That is transmitted directly to the state. The second part of the transaction is completion of the NY Forward Safety Plan. The state has provided a template that is a writable PDF. I've used it for some businesses. It's easy to use, and it follows the same structure as the interim guidance. So there's times where it's broken into checks boxes that you're saying, we're going to make sure that we ensure that 6 feet of distance. There's other portions of it that allow you to specify what you're going to do and any challenges that you might have. From experience, this isn't more than an hour to an hour and a half task. And it's something that if it has not already been done, it should be done immediately. This is guidance that has been available since late May. And now that we are actually into phase 2, it's something that is required as soon as possible. The business safety plan does not go to the state, only the affirmation does. That could change, but based on the guidance right now, that business safety plan stays on site. So the next steps are complete that business safety plan. File it this is after you do your affirmation on the website. File a readily accessible copy of that plan at your place of business. For real estate agents, I would suggest having that in their vehicles as well, because you are working with a mobile office. If anyone who's involved in the transaction, if the home buyer or the home seller want to see that plan, You should have it available for them. There should be signs at the real estate office or at your office, whatever it may be, saying that we have affirmed our understanding of the state guidelines and we have a business safety plan. And then schedule appointments or meetings to discuss that plan with your employees so they understand the safety protocols are in place and what's expected of them. This is a recommendation. Assign a COVID-19 response point person. In larger companies, that's probably going to be something that's going to live at the HR department, but because you're going to be drafting a plan, there might be questions about it. I would assign one person to deal with all that who has some knowledge about the situation. Should probably be the same person that is drafting your plan. Keep communicating with your employees. Communication is key. As long as they know that you are doing everything that you can do to keep them safe, that's going to be a difference maker. And then as you see fit, develop protocols in addition to the state guidance that are more specific to what you do on a daily basis. I want to thank our local partners once again, Chautauqua County IDA Agency, the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce, and the Jamestown Small Business Development Center. And most importantly, we want to open this up for questions to see if there's anything specific that you'd like to talk about.
Hi, Seth. I have a question.
Okay.
This is Darcy McLaughlin. I'm with the Board of Realtors here in Jamestown. So your recommendation that you just gave pertaining to the agents actually having the safety plan available on their persons, with them being independent contractors, I mean, we're not expecting them all to have their own. They could just have a copy of the one the brokerage puts in place, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think that would, here's what I'm anticipating. If a buyer has questions of like, what safety protocols are you using? Even as an independent contractor, they'd be able to say, here's what we're doing. And then if you wanted to get more specific, like in my situation, our realtor said that, we'll provide foot coverings, we'll provide face coverings, and they just asked us to please open all doors, turn on all lights. So it was clear what the expectation was in the beginning. And I would just make sure that that's happening in your case as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Well, so really in closing, I know I sound like a broken record, but go to the New York State website, affirming your understanding of the protocols and submitting the business plan. I wouldn't wait, especially in an industry such as yours where you want to get things moving again. Just take those 2 steps. If you have any questions, please contact the Jamestown Department of Development. We are here to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Seth. Just to reiterate, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And again, any of our partners, their information is listed. We'll get this webinar up on the city website under the Jamestown Restart tab or page. And, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day. Good luck.
Thank you.